Hi guys, we'll be working on lesson 10-1 today. If you're following along in your textbook, this lesson starts on page 580.
Please take out a piece of paper to work on during the lesson and fold it into 4 parts. Label your quadrants as you see them labeled on the slide. Quick think, do now, notes, and check what I know.
Earlier this year, we learned about classification of polygons, as well as how to calculate the area of two-dimensional shapes. In this next chapter, we are going to look at the math associated with three-dimensional shapes or figures. Today, we're going to begin looking at these shapes. Creating a bridge between two-dimensional and three-dimensional can be tricky. In the Quick Think section of your paper, draw the figure below. Then consider if the figure is shown as folded into a cube to which the 6 is on top, what number would be on the bottom? Pause the video while you work through this. When you are done, hit play and move on to the Do Now section. Pause your video now. Today you have 4 Do Now problems. You will be identifying each two-dimensional figure by its given name using the clues you have been provided. If you get stuck, look back at lesson 8-7 in your textbook. That starts on page 474. Take a moment and look over your answers. If you got them all, great work. If you missed one, try and figure out where you made your error. If you are still struggling, please contact Ms. Quartz. Today we will learn to identify various three-dimensional figures. The vocabulary words that we will be focusing on today are face, edge, polyhedron, vertex, base, prism, pyramid, cylinder, and cone. You should pause the video and write these in your notes section now. Later in the video, when you find the definition, you should pause again and write the definition in your own words in the notes section. Three-dimensional figures, or solids, have length, width, and height. A flat surface of a solid is a face. An edge is where two faces meet. A polyhedron is a three-dimensional figure whose faces are all polygons. A vertex of a polyhedron is a point where 3 or more edges meet. The face that is used to name a polyhedron is called its base. A prism has 2 bases. A pyramid just has 1. A prism is a polyhedron that has 2 parallel congruent bases. The bases can be any polygon. The other faces are all parallelograms. A pyramid is a polyhedron that has 1 base. The base can be any polygon. The other faces are all triangles. In order to determine what polyhedron this is, we need to consider how many bases and how many faces it has. Remember, a face is a flat surface on a three-dimensional shape, and a base is a face that defines the shape of a three-dimensional object. On this shape, there are 2 octagonal bases. There are also 8 rectangular faces. So we know that the figure is an octagonal prism. Whereas a prism has 2 parallel congruent bases, remember that a prism only has 1 base. This shape only has 1 base, and it is a pentagon. There are 5 triangular faces. So we see that this figure is a pentagonal pyramid. Take a moment and look at this shape. Is it a prism or a pyramid? There is 1 base, and it is a triangle. There are 3 triangular faces. The figure is a triangular pyramid. Identify the bases and faces of the figure, then name the figure. There are 2 bases, and they are both hexagons. There are 6 rectangular faces. The figure is a hexagonal prism. Identify the bases and faces of the figure, then name the figure. There are 2 bases, and they are both triangles. There are 3 rectangular faces. The figure is a triangular prism. Identify the bases and faces of the figure, then name the figure. In this case, all the faces and bases are congruent squares. Because of this, this figure is a cube. Other three-dimensional figures include cylinders and cones. These figures are not polyhedrons because they are not made up of faces that are all polygons. A cylinder has 2 parallel congruent bases that are circles. A cone has 1 base that is a circle and a surface that comes to a point called the vertex. You can use these properties to classify three-dimensional figures. Classify each figure as a polyhedron or not a polyhedron, then name the figure. This figure has faces that are all polygons, so the figure is a polyhedron. There's one rectangular base for each figure. The whole figure is made up of a rectangular pyramid and a rectangular prism. Is this shape a polyhedron or not a polyhedron? The faces are not all polygons, so the figure is not a polyhedron. There is one circular base, so we can see that this figure is a cone. What about this shape? Is it a polyhedron or not a polyhedron? The faces are not all polygons, so the figure is not a polyhedron. It has two circular bases, so we see that this figure is a cylinder. What about this one? Is it a polyhedron or not a polyhedron? The faces are not all polygons, so the figure is not a polyhedron. There is one circular base for the top figure and two circular bases for the bottom figure. So we see this figure is made up of a cylinder and a cone. What about this one? Polyhedron or not? The faces are all polygons, so this figure is a polyhedron. There are two triangular bases for the figure. Because of this, we know this figure is a triangular prism. Last one, polyhedron or not? The faces are all polygons, so this figure definitely is a polyhedron. It has one rectangular base and faces that are triangles. So we know this figure is a rectangular pyramid.
In the Check What You Know section, answer the following questions. Pause the video while you work on them, and then hit play to check your answers. If you need help, you can go back in this video or look in your textbook for guidance. Remember, if you get stuck, you should reach out to me through email, chat, or text. Pause the video now and complete the problems.
Okay, for homework, you're going to complete these questions from your textbook on a separate sheet of paper. Page 582, problem numbers 1 through 18, even problems only. Write your name and the lesson number, 10-1, at the top of your paper. When you've completed your work, take a photo of your work and email or text it to me. If you need additional help, please email or reach out to me on chat. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day, stay safe, and keep learning.